You ever get that feeling in your gut that someone isn't being totally straight with you, but you just can't pinpoint why? Well, today we're going to break down the science of reading people and turn that gut feeling into a set of actual observable tools that you can use. So let's just dive right in.
So get this is a real quote about a behavior expert named Chase Hughes. He was watching a friend's video call and within 4 seconds, he knew the person on the other end was lying. It honestly sounds like a superpower, right? Something straight out of a movie.
Exactly. How on earth can someone know something so definite, so fast, just by looking at a screen? It feels impossible. But that question, that's the key to unlocking how we understand each other on a much deeper level.
And here's the answer. It's not a psychic gift, it's a skill. It's built on a really deep understanding of human psychology and a super disciplined way of watching people. It's a science, and the best part is, because it's a science, it's something anyone can learn. So, where do you even start? Well, the journey begins not by looking for lies, but by building the right foundation. It's all about getting your own head in the right space before you even begin to look at someone else's behavior.
Okay, this right here, this is probably the single most important concept we're going to talk about. It's called a baseline. See, everybody has a normal. Some people talk with their hands all the time, others are super still, some folks look away when they think, others stare you down. If you don't know what's normal for them, you have absolutely no way of spotting what's abnormal. Think of the baseline as your map.
And this is where so many people get it wrong. There is no one-size-fits-all tell for a lie. Someone crossing their arms isn't a lie. Maybe they're just cold. The real indicator is a sudden change from their normal. If a person who's usually calm suddenly gets all fidgety, or a fidgety person suddenly freezes up, that's when you pay attention. The deviation from the baseline, that's the data.
So, how do you even get someone to show you their real, authentic baseline? Simple. You avoid putting them on the defensive. A sharp, closed question like, "What did you do?" It feels like an accusation. But an open statement like, "Tell me about last night." Well, that's an invitation to tell a story. It relaxes their brain and lets their natural baseline behavior just flow out. All right, now that we've got the mindset down, let's start talking about the body itself. Once you have a good sense of someone's baseline, you can start to notice the physical tells. And we're talking about the unconscious stuff our bodies do under stress or when we're focused, the things we can't really control.
Now, check this out because this is fascinating. Blink rate is a huge unconscious indicator. In just a normal, chill conversation, we blink about 20 times a minute. But when someone's intensely focused, think a surgeon in the middle of an operation, that can drop to just 3 or 4. And when they're under stress, it can skyrocket all the way to 80. It's a primal response that our conscious brain just can't manage. But, and this is super important, remember that golden rule: one change means nothing. A faster blink rate could just mean their eyes are dry. You're never, ever looking for a single tell. You're looking for a cluster of behaviors, all changing at the exact same time. That's what tells you something significant is probably going on inside their head.
So what does a cluster look like? Well, imagine you ask a simple question, and suddenly all of these things happen at once. Their blink rate shoots up, their eyes dart in a way that's not their normal thinking pattern, they suddenly start stumbling over their words, maybe their hand unconsciously goes to cover their stomach, and their shoulders kind of hunch up towards their ears. See? That combination is telling a story.
Okay, so we've covered the body. But what about the words themselves? The way someone speaks can be just as revealing, sometimes even more so than all those nonverbal cues combined. This is such a fantastic example of a key verbal indicator. People who are being deceptive will often try to psychologically distance themselves from the lie. And one of the main ways they do that is by dropping personal pronouns. Instead of saying, "I did this," they'll just say, "did this." It's subtle, but it's a really powerful shift. Think about this for a second. You can probably rattle off the alphabet forwards, no problem. But try to say it backwards. It's weirdly hard, isn't it? That's because you memorized it in one direction. Well, a fabricated story is exactly the same. It's rehearsed chronologically, so a liar is going to struggle to tell it out of order. A real memory, though, you can jump in and pull details from anywhere. So ask yourself this. When you ask someone about their day, do they give you this perfect step-by-step timeline? Or do they start with the most important thing that happened? I mean, if you got into a car crash, you don't start your story with, "Well, I woke up at 6:30. You start with, "Oh my God, I got in an accident." A perfectly chronological story is often a huge sign of rehearsal.
All right, now we're going to take these tools and apply them to a much more dangerous situation, identifying a manipulator, a narcissist, maybe even a psychopath. The stakes here are way higher, and honestly, the signals can be much more chilling.
This is one of the most unsettling indicators you can see. Imagine you're opening up to someone, sharing something really personal, an insecurity. A normal person will show concern, but a manipulator's blink rate will often drop to nearly zero. They become laser focused.
And let's be crystal clear about why that's happening. That intense focus isn't empathy. They're not connecting with you. They are listening for your weaknesses. Your vulnerability is just valuable information to them. It's a blueprint for how they can control you later. It is pure data collection. Another massive red flag is a direct contradiction between their words and their body. They might be saying something like, "Look, I'm being totally open with you here," but their body is physically closing off. Their arms are pulling in, they're leaning back. The words are just a performance. The body is revealing the truth. That disconnect is the warning sign. Okay, this is a seriously powerful technique called the punishment question. Let's use the example from the source material. A dad finds spilled chocolate milk. He asks his daughter, "What should happen to the person who did this?" She lists off a whole bunch of harsh punishments. Then he asks his son the same question, but the son, who's the guilty one, just says, "Maybe no more chocolate milk in the living room?" See the difference? The person who actually did it will always recommend a much lighter punishment. All right, for our last section, let's get into the most advanced skill of all. It's called elicitation. This is the art of getting someone to give you sensitive information without them even realizing you're asking for it. And here's the secret, and it sounds completely backward at first. The more sensitive the information you need, the fewer questions you should ask. Direct questions put up walls, especially around touchy subjects. But statements make people feel like they're choosing to volunteer information, not that they're being interrogated. So here's how it works. First, you make a provocative statement just to get them talking. Then, you express a little disbelief, which makes them want to prove you wrong and give you more detail. And finally, this part is just brilliant. You state an incorrect fact. See, people have this deep psychological need to correct things that are wrong. If you say, "I heard you guys all make $28 an hour," they'll instinctively jump in and say, "No way, we only make 19," giving you the exact info you wanted all along. So there you have it. We've built a whole toolkit, from setting a baseline and looking for clusters, to analyzing verbal patterns and even spotting manipulation. But really, these aren't just tools for catching lies. They're tools for understanding the unspoken story that's always happening around us. So the real question is, now that you have the tools, what are you going to start listening for?